there's not just a general reason why there would be opposition to media literacy. Of course not. There is, of course, just the concern that one political worldview will be pressed through what this bill will create. That's been a concern from this state, from this nation, from its inception. The whole concept of individualism, of us all being created equal and being given our individual rights to our pursuit of happiness and our liberty, is reflected in the intent by our founders to have a small government, one that does not control our lives, that does not control our thinking, and does not raise our kids for us, and does not influence how they believe, but rather provides for them an education that will prepare them for self-reliance. This is also reflected, this sentiment of not having centralized control over what gets to our students is reflected in our Colorado State Constitution. So I will refer to Section 15, Article 9 of the Colorado State Constitution that talks about school boards. The whole idea of a school board is to push out to the local community the authority of instruction, the authority of materials, the authority for curricula. So it's very brief, and I'll read it. It says, the General Assembly, that's us, by law, provide for organization of school districts of convenient size, in each of which shall be established a Board of Education to consist of 3 or more directors to be elected by the qualified electors of the district. Said directors shall have control of instruction in the public schools of their respective districts. This is very informative in those tight couple of sentences there, saying the General Assembly establishes school districts, and then it's up to those school districts, that are 178 of them, to determine what will be instruction for their communities, elected by those electors, by the people that live in those communities. In other words, it's not up to this body to be determining what is instruction for those students. That's up to those communities. It goes on in the very next section, Section 16. One sentence, textbooks in schools. Constitution of Colorado. Neither the General Assembly, that's us, nor the State Board of Education shall have the power to prescribe textbooks to be used in the public schools. Neither the General Assembly nor the State Board of Education will have power to prescribe textbooks to be used in public schools. And I would contend that when this was written, the more digital literacy media was not quite as formed, but it would still apply there. This is reflective, this constitutional mandate, constitutional concepts are reflected in the Title 22 in the Colorado Revised Statutes for Education, under the section of school district boards, powers and duties. And I will cite it. It is section 22-32-109, B, item T, small t, that is, it is the authority of those school districts to determine the educational programs to be carried on in the schools of the district, and to prescribe the textbooks for any course of instruction or study in such programs. So the last thing I read in the state constitution uses that word prescribe. Neither the General Assembly nor the State Board of Education shall have the power to prescribe textbooks to be used in the public schools. And in statute, it says that to determine the educational programs to be carried on in the schools of the district and to prescribe the textbooks for any course of instruction or study in such programs. My dictionary on my computer says that the word prescribe is to recommend as something beneficial. And by the way, it gives an example, it says marriage is often prescribed as a universal remedy, so take that, but prescribe, to recommend. It is not up to this body by constitution or by statute to be making these recommendations. This is a wholly inappropriate bill. We should not be voting yes on this bill. We've had too many challenges, too many running right up to the Constitution and dancing around it and saying, I'm not violating it. We need to stop that behavior. We need to trust the people. We need to trust the founders who set us up to have distributed authority, to put authority where it belongs, out with the people. And the people, and by the way, it is also prescribed in our state statute and in our Constitution, reflected in the Constitution, that those school boards will meet regularly, openly, inviting the public to come and comment and to ask questions of their school board, because having that local control and local reflection of what's to be presented to their children, not the state's students, but to the parents' children, and for the sake of those taxpayers that are paying for it, they get to make such determinations. We are concerned that this bill is not what's being proposed of simply being critical thinking, but rather to assert a leftist worldview, which I would contend is a religious worldview. So I strongly recommend a no vote on 1103. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.